Hello everyone, Satvik Das this side. Welcome to Art and Print. Before we start with this video, I want to give you a quick overview of how this series is gonna be. The first one, that is this, is about setting the reference images, tracing the basic model, toggle with modifiers and some notable hotkeys to maximize time efficiency. The second video is going to be the designing of the final processed model, making it ready to render. The third and the final one is going to be about the shading, lighting, studio setup and rendering our final 3D asset. The subject I chose here is a guitar, and this video is made keeping in mind the ease requirements of a beginner. So if you are new to Blender or looking for a detailed tutorial, my suggestion to you would be to go thoroughly through each of these videos and utilize them efficiently. Surely, if you face any problem or have any unclear doubt, feel free to ask me in the comments below. I'll be active. Now, after opening a general project, we are given with a default cube, a light and a camera. So to avoid distractions, I'll delete these three objects right away. Press X and delete. So at first I think we're gonna need an image reference. For that I'm gonna switch to X-axis view and add in image reference, and I'll choose the folder where I have kept the reference of the guitar which we're gonna load in. No worries, I'll provide you with the link in the description. Now make sure that it's centered perfectly. For that I'm gonna toggle some changes. Press G, Y, zoom in a bit and make sure this 3D cursor is in the center of the reference. G, Y, perfect. Now we need to place another reference up here which is gonna display the side part. For that I'm gonna use the same image as the reference. So all I'm gonna do is select this one and Shift D. Now Shift D will actually duplicate the object. I will not move my cursor and give it a click up here, and after that I'll press R, Z and 90, which is actually rotating the object about the Z axis with 90 degrees. Press G, X, reposition it in the center, very much close to the 3D cursor. Perfect. I guess we are done for now. Now to start with, I'm gonna go with this head portion. For that I'm gonna add in a plane, mesh plane. A plane will appear in the center. I'm gonna rotate it about the Y axis. R, Y, 90, cool. So I'm gonna scale it down. Press S on your keyboard, scale it down. I'm being more specific with the angles and movements to make it very geometric specific. So I'm gonna push this up here. For that G is actually grabbing, okay, G, Z and yeah, somewhere up here. So since it's a bit rectangular in shape, I'm gonna elongate it in the vertical axis. So S to scale, Z, I think this is gonna look good. Now I'm gonna add in a modifier which is gonna simplify my work. You'll get to see when I do this. For that I'm gonna switch my view from object to edit mode. Now in edit mode you can interfere with only one object that you have selected, but in object mode you can interact with multiple objects. You'll get to know more about them when you interact with Blender more often. You know, practice makes a man perfect. Whatever. So now we're gonna divide this plane into two equal parts. For that we're gonna add in a loop cut from in between. So Control R, a black line will appear, but I want it to be vertically bisecting this plane, so I'll place it up here and double click. After that I'm gonna select these two vertices and just dragging and selecting it and press X to delete. A dialog box will appear and I'll select the vertex, so it's gone. Now people, I will go into the modifiers properties, add modifier, and where is it, mirror modifier. I'll change the axis, and look what it does. It actually simplifies your work. If you make changes in either of the sides, the same is gonna be copied, which will make your workflow much easier, and it's gonna be more accurate. So I'll be turning my viewport to X-ray or wireframe, where I'll be able to observe my reference image way better. So I'll press G and reposition it up here, and I'll take this vertex, G, then Y, click. Good. So as you can see, we need to add in more dimensions to give this curviness and a dent up here. So I'm gonna add a loop cut again, or let's just say dividing my plane into another simpler parts. So now I'm gonna press Ctrl R, a black line will appear. I'll give it a click to ensure the count and drag it up here, and click it again to ensure my position of the loop cut. Now I'll select this one, this singular vertex, and I'll press G and bring it up here. Now if you notice, there is a bevel, or it's a bit curvy. To give that touch, I'm gonna add in more loop cuts. Press Ctrl R. Now if you scroll your mouse wheel up and down, you'll observe that you can increase and decrease the number of loop cuts. I think I'm gonna go with 2 this time, and double click it to ensure the loop cuts. I'll select these 2 vertex point and press G, Y. Good, way better. I'm gonna put another loop cut here, bring it down somewhere here, and move this inside G, Y. Good. Now, please don't hesitate if you feel any problem. You are free to ask me in the comments below. Okay, so I'm gonna add some vertical loop cuts also to give this curvy nature. Ctrl R, and just hover your cursor to get the desired loop cut marks. I'll scroll my wheel to give it 3 cuts, then double click it to ensure. Then I'll reposition it single-handedly, GZ.
GZ. Okay, I'm same with this one also. GZ. Cool. I think this a bit down. It's looking very sharp. Okay.
This is way better for now. Okay. So we have traced the reference image. Now we are finally done with the head portion. I'm gonna tab in to the object mode again. After switching back to object mode, I'm gonna add in another object for this neck portion. Now, to be very honest, I am not so much into guitar. It's just that I'm making a model of it, so pardon me if I am going with some wrong names. It's the default name that is coming into my brain and I'm using it. So I'm gonna add in again a mesh at a plane again. So a green color line will appear. I'm gonna rotate it about the y-axis. This green line is actually signifying the y-axis. So RY 90. Good. I'm gonna scale this again in the center. Scale to fit the reference. Good. Now I'm gonna pull this side up here to match my reference. For that I'm gonna press tab to the edit mode. It will take this object to the edit mode, and I'll select these 2 vertex point and press G, Z and bring it up here, somewhere here. Good. Now if you notice that the difference between these 2 vertex is gradually decreasing when we go up, so I'm gonna select these 2 vertex and S to scale them to fit my reference. Good. Okay. Now if you notice, this body is also being divided vertically, which can also be created with the mirror modifier, which we have used here to simplify our workflow. So all I'm gonna do is add in a circle this time. A circle will appear in the center. I'm gonna rotate it about the y-axis by 90, so RY 90. So I'm gonna bring this down, G, Z, somewhere here. Now all you need is idea and practice. This is not achieved in a single day. I hope you'll need some time to practice, and if you face any problem you can rewatch this video again. So I'll press S to scale it, and I'll bring it somewhere here. I'll bring this circle a bit down, GZ, to match these ends. Now all I'm gonna do is taper this circle a bit to make it a bit elliptical in shape. So S to scale, and in the Z axis only. I can only influence in the Z axis. So I'll meet the reference, especially this down portion, and I'm gonna leave it like this. Now I don't need this part. All I'm gonna do is copy it from the mirror modifier. So I'm gonna head up to the edit mode by pressing tab and press the vertex set of this side and press X and vertices. This will delete the group of this. Now I'm only left with the semicircle here. No worries, I'm gonna add in the modifier tab again, mirror modifier again, I'm sorry. So I'm gonna use the y-axis to flip it actually, and I'll also enable this clipping. Now the purpose of clipping will be told to you later on. It's very interesting, by the way. Okay, so now we're gonna take this up and cover up this outline. Okay, for that I'm gonna press O to enable this proportional editing. Now these are the keyboard shortcuts that you can achieve. You can't always hover onto each of them and select them, so it's better or get adhere to these hotkeys. Okay, so I'm gonna press O to enable this and select the spare one. I'm gonna select the center vertex. Now the purpose of this proportional editing is, if you press G, you'll observe that a circle is appearing. Okay, now you can scroll your mouse wheel up and down to increase and decrease this sphere. So the purpose of this sphere is to amplify, increase or decrease the area or the volume of impact of your change that you're doing. It may be moving, rotating, scaling, anything, but in this case here I'm using G, so I'm gonna give it somewhere like this. Okay, fine, in the center. Okay, now I'm gonna switch this off. I don't need this again because it's gonna impact the whole unwanted shapes. So I'm gonna individually put these vertices in the boundaries. So press G, and now if you notice that it's a bit edgy and it's not soft here, so no worries, I'm gonna add in another loop cut or vertex cut. For that we're gonna press Ctrl R. A black vertex will appear. We're gonna single click it to ensure its position. I'm gonna press G, reposition it again, G, and reposition it again. Now I know you can observe a bit edgy and no smooth lines here, but no worries, we're gonna add more modifiers to make it much smoother and picture perfect. Okay, so we can say that we are done with the basic outline of this body, the trunk and the head. Now all we need to do is adding some volumetrics up here. For that I'm gonna need this one. For that let's just hide this one, this reference image. For that I'm gonna press H. After pressing H, you will observe that this is checked off, the I button is checked off, which will hide your image. You can also undo the same by pressing this I button again to hide and unhide the image or any object you want. Okay, so I'm gonna take this head one and rotate it to make it parallel with the reference image. Scale it a bit since it was the perpendicular reference, and G to grab it and place it up here. Okay, good. Now to add in the thickness, all we're gonna do is extrude this side, this ring like. So for that we're gonna head up to the edit mode again, press tab, selecting this one, okay. Tab to edit mode, select, press E in your keyboards to select every vertex point, and press E to extrude and add an constraint of X. Now the purpose of extrusion is very simple. If you select a point that is 0 dimensional and extrude it, it will turn it up to a line. Now which is 1D, and now if you select a line and extrude it, it will turn it into a plane. Now if you extrude this plane, it will turn it into a cube. So all it does is increments your selected object by 1 dimension. Now I'm gonna align this vertices with the reference in a time lapse, so it's better you can follow by pressing G. Okay, so I hope we are done with this part, and the same thing we are gonna repeat with this trunk portion. Now I'm gonna select this vertex set. Now let me remind you, when you're selecting these two lines from this y-axis, it is actually selecting the other one also, which is being overlapped this one. So I'll press G and manually set it up here and take this and reposition it a bit. G. Good. I'll add in another loop cut. Take this G here. Very good. Okay, so that's it for the basics. Now the similar will be done to this. Now if you notice that we have a bent structure over here, for that I'll switch back to the solid state view and I'll press tab so that I'm in the object mode, and selecting this object, this neck portion, I'll switch back to the Y orthographic view and add in a modifier called Subdivisional Surface Modifier. The purpose of Subdivisional Surface Modifier is divides the surface, making it much smoother and calculating the shortest distance it can cover. So we need this very often. I'll increase the level of viewport to 3. Yeah, good. It's way softer, right? So I'll turn back to the object mode and switch to X-ray again. I'll add in more loop cuts to hold this subsurface modifier down here. I'll add one in the middle, double click it to ensure, and I'll go to the X-ray mode, select these two vertex at the same time, G, and I'll bend it up to somewhere here. Okay, now if you press tab and go back to your solid state, you will notice that a bent portion is being created. Now to fix these ones also, you're gonna add in more loop cuts. Yeah, it's a bit pretty intimidating, but it's worth it. Pretty awesome and soft. The same is gonna happen with this head one also, to avoid this blocky, edgy effect. I'll add a subsurface modifier and add in loop cuts too. Never forget to preview your work by changing angles and shifting your viewport. It will give you a better understanding about your object. Now I've told you to keep in mind the purpose of this clip is gonna be disclosed now. So I'll press X, and check in the front view, basically the back view. I'm gonna cover up the back of this room of guitar. For that I'm gonna head up to edit mode and take the y-axis, enable X-ray, and I'll select every vertex in the from the backward of this guitar, and all I'm gonna do is extrude them in the y-axis. Now slowly you will get to see that when you're extruding it, the faces are merging in the very place we have applied the mirror modifier. It is happening because of this clipping. The clipping helps you to clip the vertex or edge or even the face that are coming from both the sides, giving it a very plain look. Now if you tab into the object mode and hide this reference image, you'll get to see a very plain background with no vertical lines or blemishes. Okay, so since we are done with those part, I'm gonna cover up the front part of the room also, the guitar's rooms. For that I'm gonna select this one and switch to X orthographic view, then extrude it and bring it up in the Y direction. I'll not merge it completely since I have to leave a circle up here, open circle up here. So I'm gonna separate this part, this whole part separately. For that we're gonna use the control of our keyboard, select this one and click on the extreme vertex point. By holding control in your keyboard, you'll observe that a line of vertex group will be selected, then push it back like the way you did. So I'm just gonna go with these two vertices up here because we don't need any gap. Okay, very well. So all I'm gonna need is some more loop cuts up here to properly define this hole. So I guess we are pretty well done for now. Now again this loop is being a bit very edgy, so we're gonna add in the subsurface modifier again. Awesome. I'm gonna add in more loop cuts to define the shape. If you observe, there are still some edgy lines which are in dire need to be avoided. So for that I'm gonna right click here and apply shade smooth. It will smoothen the surface, and to be more definite I'll go to this object data properties and enable auto smooth. This will auto smooth your object. You can interfere the angles also to give it some change. Hey guys, just for a small note that I have a second approach for the guitar body making, which I think it's a bit easier than the way it was. So let's do it. Okay, so I'll be adding in an circle with 60 vertices and I'll be wrapping around the whole reference. Then being in the edit mode, I'll add a new circle with 60 vertices and I'll scale it down to match the whole size. I'll toggle some changes until it fits my satisfaction. Okay, now since we are in the mirror mode, I want to rip the half of the vertices out. So then I'll select one extreme vertices of the top and another extreme vertices from below and press F and keep pressing F until the whole cavity fills in. Okay, so now all I'm gonna do is select the outer boundary, the entire one, by pressing Alt and clicking in either of the vertex and extrude them. Then I'll enable the reference image and I'll try to slowly match it along the reference image. After I think I'm done with the matching, I'll be selecting the entire outer edge by being in the X-ray mode, and I'll press E to extrude and will sink them inside in the y-axis. Now make sure that you're having the clipping mode enabled in the mirror modifier. Now I'm gonna add in a subdivisional surface modifier to smoothen the surface, and I'll add some loop cuts in the front and to the backward as well, and some more in the middle. And a one in the front to add some little crease. You can also hold a complete vertex chain and press Shift S to add in crease. Then I'll increase the viewport shading, and I guess we are good to go with this model. Okay, to sum up the entire video, up till now we have learned how to set the reference images, we have learned how to trace them, and we have also learned how to extrude things and make them into a three-dimensional look. So I think this video is getting a bit lengthier, so all I'm gonna do is stop now and see you in the next part, where I'll be modeling and refining the entire model, making it ready to shade and render. Okay, till then, see ya, take care.